The ache in my shoulders had become a familiar companion. I'd been hunched over Theodore Carrington's mahogany desk for the past 3 hours, organizing contracts that represented more money than I'd see in a lifetime. Each page was a reminder of the empire he'd built. Legitimate real estate holdings that concealed something far darker beneath their polished surface. My fingers cramped around the pen as I initialed another document, the scratch of ink on paper the only sound in his vast corner office. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago's skyline glittered like scattered diamonds against the night sky. It was nearly midnight, and I was alone with him again. I could feel Theo's presence without looking up. He sat across the room in his leather armchair, ostensibly reviewing financial reports on his tablet, but I knew better. I'd learned to recognize the weight of his gaze over these 11 months working as his personal assistant. The air always changed when he watched me, grew heavier, electric, charged with something I didn't dare name. You missed a signature on page 7. His voice cut through the silence, deep and controlled. That voice had haunted my dreams for months now, whispering things I'd never let him say in reality. I flipped back through the stack, finding the blank line. Sorry, I'll fix it. You're tired. Not a question. He noticed everything. I'm fine, Mr. Carrington. I kept my tone professional, kept my eyes on the papers. If I looked at him now, with exhaustion lowering my defenses, I might do something foolish. Like let him see how much I wanted him. The leather creaked as he stood. I felt rather than saw him approach, every nerve in my body attuned to his movement. He stopped behind my chair, close enough that his cologne, something expensive and woodsy, enveloped me. How many times do I need to tell you to call me Theo? His hand came to rest on the back of my chair, just inches from my shoulder. We've worked together almost a year, Tessa. The formality is getting tiresome. My name in his mouth always sounded like a caress. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still. It's more appropriate this way. Appropriate. He said the word like it tasted bitter. Is that what concerns you? Propriety? Everything about this concerns me, I wanted to say. The way my heart races when you walk into a room, the way I find excuses to work late just to be near you, the way I imagine your hands on me when I'm alone at night. Instead, I said, the contracts are almost finished. I should have everything ready for tomorrow's meeting with Mr. Volkov. The mention of his business associate shifted something in the air. Theo's hand moved from the chair to my shoulder, a touch so light it could have been accidental, but wasn't. Nothing Theo did was accidental. Dimitri is bringing someone new tomorrow, his enforcer apparently. His thumb traced a small circle against my blouse, sending heat spiraling down my spine. I want you in the meeting. I should have said no. These weren't the kinds of meetings a personal assistant typically attended. But I nodded, because saying no to Theo Carrington was like trying to stop a force of nature. Good. His hand lingered another moment before he stepped away, returning to his chair. Finish up. I'll have Marco drive you home. Marco, one of Theo's many security men who shadowed him everywhere. I'd gotten used to their presence. These silent sentinels who materialized from nowhere whenever Theo needed them. What I hadn't gotten used to was the way they all looked at me, like they knew something I was trying desperately to ignore. The rest of the documents took another hour. Theo stayed the entire time, working in companionable silence that felt more intimate than it should. When I finally stood to leave, stretching my stiff muscles, he was already on his feet. I'll walk you down. He didn't wait for agreement, just held the door open with an expectant look. The elevator ride to the ground floor was torture. We stood on opposite sides of the small space, but I felt him everywhere. His eyes tracked my reflection in the polished doors. My own face looked back at me, dark circles under hazel eyes, blonde hair escaping its professional bun, lips I'd chewed anxiously throughout the evening. You work too hard. Theo said quietly. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. That's rich, coming from you. You're here more hours than I am. I have nothing better to do with my time. Something in his voice made me finally look at him. His gray eyes held mine with an intensity that stole my breath. What's your excuse? The truth clawed at my throat. I'm avoiding an empty apartment where my mother's hospice bed is a constant reminder that I'm losing her. I'm drowning in debt to people who will break my legs if I don't pay soon. I'm staying late because being near you is the only time I feel anything other than terrified. Same as yours, I lied. Nothing better to do. The elevator dinged. Marco waited by a sleek black car, his bulk unmistakable even in the dim parking garage. Theo's hand found the small of my back, guiding me forward. That simple touch sent electricity racing through my body. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., he reminded me as Marco opened the rear door. Don't be late. I slid into the car, acutely aware of his eyes following me. Only when Marco pulled away did I let myself sag against the leather seat, releasing the breath I'd been holding. My phone buzzed. A text from the hospice nurse. Your mother had a rough night. She's asking for you. Guilt crashed over me. I'd been so consumed with Theo, with this dangerous attraction, that I'd almost forgotten about Mom's latest treatment failure. The experimental drug that was our last hope had failed. Without it, she had maybe 3 months. 3 months. And I was $70,000 in debt to Vincent Russo, a loan shark whose patience had run out 2 weeks ago. The money I'd borrowed for Mom's treatment, the money I couldn't possibly repay on my assistant's salary, the money that was going to get me killed. I closed my eyes, letting the city lights blur past the window. Tomorrow's meeting with Dmitry Volkov. Tomorrow I'd sit across from Theo and pretend my world wasn't crumbling. Tomorrow I'd keep every desperate secret locked away and do my job. Tomorrow I'd face the man I couldn't have and remember all the reasons why. And the morning arrived too quickly. I'd spent the night at Mom's bedside, watching her labored breathing, holding her thin hand. She'd been beautiful once, before the cancer ate her from the inside out. Now she was a ghost of herself, fading a little more each day. You look tired, sweetheart, she whispered as dawn broke through the hospice room's window. I'm fine, Mom. I squeezed her hand gently. Just work stress. Her eyes, the same hazel as mine, studied my face. You're lying. You've always been a terrible liar. I almost laughed. If she only knew how much I'd been lying lately. Get some rest. I'll be back tonight. The commute to Carrington Tower was a blur. I changed in the building's restroom, swapping jeans for the navy pencil skirt and cream blouse I kept in my locker for emergencies. Professional armor to hide the fact that I was falling apart. Theo's office was on the 42nd floor. I'd barely stepped off the elevator when his door opened. He stood there in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, his dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers if it weren't for the hardness in his eyes. That hardness spoke of violence, of power, of a man who'd built an empire through means I tried not to think about. You're early. His gaze swept over me, lingering on my face. But you look exhausted. Rough night? I'm fine, I said for the second time in as many hours. Where do you need me for the meeting? He studied me another moment, jaw tight, then gestured to his office. They'll be here in 30 minutes. I want you taking notes on everything discussed. Dimitri's new enforcer makes me nervous. I need every detail documented. I settled into the chair across from his desk, pulling out my tablet. Theo remained standing by the window, staring out at the city he controlled from this glass tower. The silence stretched, comfortable in a way that terrified me. How had this become comfortable? How had I let myself get so tangled up with a man who lived in shadows? Tessa. My name pulled me from my thoughts. Theo had turned from the window, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. If something was wrong, you'd tell me, wouldn't you? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean you've worked for me for 11 months. In that time, you've been unfailingly punctual, thorough, professional. But the past few weeks, you've been distracted, worried. He took a step closer. I want to know why. Because I'm dying inside watching my mother fade. Because I owe money to a man who'll kill me if I don't pay. Because every moment with you makes it harder to breathe. Personal issues, I managed. Nothing that affects my work. Everything about you affects your work. Another step. He was close now, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. If you're in trouble, I can handle it. The words came out sharper than intended. I don't need rescuing, Mr. Carrington. Something flashed in his eyes. Frustration, maybe, or hurt. But before he could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, jaw tightening. They're early. He straightened his tie, a habitual gesture I'd memorized. Remember, take notes on everything, especially anything that feels off. The next 10 minutes passed in tense preparation. Theo's demeanor shifted, the man I'd glimpsed moments ago disappearing behind a mask of cold authority. This was the Theo Carrington the city feared, the untouchable crime lord who'd taken his father's struggling organization and turned it into an empire. When Marco opened the door to admit Dmitry Volkov and his companion, I had my tablet ready, my expression schooled into professional neutrality. Dmitry I'd met before, a silver-haired Russian in his 50s with sharp eyes and an easy smile that never reached those eyes. He greeted Theo with the casualness of old associates, though I'd learned nothing in their world was ever casual. It was his companion who made my stomach drop. Vincent Russo, the loan shark I owed $70,000 to. The man whose calls I'd been avoiding for weeks. The man who'd promised to make an example of me if I didn't pay by the end of the month. Our eyes met across the room. Recognition flickered in his, recognition and something worse. Calculation. Theo, my friend, Dmitry was saying. Let me introduce Vincent Russo, best enforcer I've ever worked with. Figured you two should meet. Theo's gaze swept over Vincent, assessing. I've heard the name. Your reputation precedes you. Vincent's smile was all predator. All good things, I hope. His eyes slid to me, lingering in a way that made my skin crawl. Though I have to say, Dmitry didn't mention you had such beautiful staff. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I felt it, the shift in Theo's energy, the way he went absolutely still beside his desk. When I dared glance at him, his expression was carved from ice. My assistant is off limits, Theo said quietly. Too quietly. I'd learned that when Theo got quiet, people got hurt. I'd suggest you remember that. Vincent raised his hands in mock surrender, but his smile widened. No offense intended, just making an observation. Make your observations elsewhere. Theo's voice could have frozen hell itself. He moved then, positioning himself between Vincent and me in a gesture so blatantly protective, it made my heart stutter. Tessa, take your notes from over there. He indicated a chair in the corner, farther from Vincent. I moved on autopilot, acutely aware of 3 sets of eyes tracking my movement. Dmitry looked amused. Vincent looked calculating. Theo looked murderous. The meeting should have proceeded to business. Instead, Vincent couldn't seem to stop looking at me. Every few minutes, his gaze would drift my way, appraising me like merchandise. And each time it did, Theo's jaw would tighten another notch. You seem distracted, Vincent, Theo finally said, his tone deceptively mild. Perhaps you'd prefer to have this meeting another time. Not at all. Vincent leaned back in his chair, completely at ease despite the death in Theo's eyes. I'm just trying to place where I've seen your assistant before. She looks familiar. My hands froze over the tablet. This was it. He was going to tell Theo about the debt, about how desperate I'd been, about everything I'd tried so hard to hide. I doubt you've met. Theo's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Tessa doesn't exactly run in your circles. Maybe not. Vincent's smile turned knowing. But Chicago's not that big. People cross paths. They don't cross paths with her. Theo stood, his full height imposing as he looked down at Vincent. Let me be absolutely clear, since you seem to be having trouble understanding. My assistant is mine to protect. That means she's untouchable. Do we understand each other? The word mine hung in the air like a declaration of war. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at Theo's back as he stood between me and Vincent like a wall of controlled fury. Dimitri cleared his throat. Perhaps we should reschedule. That won't be necessary. Theo cut him off. Vincent just needed a reminder about professional boundaries. I'm sure he's got it now. He turned those cold gray eyes on Vincent. Haven't you? Vincent's smile didn't waver, but something dangerous flickered in his expression. Crystal clear, Carrington. Your assistant is off limits, though you might want to ask her why she looks so nervous right now. My blood turned to ice. He was going to do it. He was going to destroy everything. Get out. Theo's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of absolute command. Both of you. This meeting is over. Dimitri stood immediately, years of experience telling him when to retreat. But Vincent took his time, making a show of straightening his suit jacket, his eyes finding mine one last time. Pleasure meeting you, Tessa, he said, my name deliberate. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again soon. The threat was unmistakable. And from the way Theo's hands clenched at his sides, he heard it too. When the door finally closed behind them, the silence was deafening. I couldn't look at Theo, couldn't face whatever questions he was about to ask. My entire body trembled as I clutched the tablet like a lifeline. Tessa. His voice was different now, not cold but searching. Look at me. I forced my eyes up. He'd moved closer, standing just a few feet away, his expression a mixture of concern and barely restrained violence. How do you know Vincent Russo? The question I'd been dreading, the one that would unravel everything. I don't, I lied, and watched something in his eyes shatter. Don't lie to me. He took another step forward. I've learned to read you over these months. You're terrified right now, and it's not because of me. It's because of him. So I'll ask again. How do you know Vincent Russo? My throat closed up. I couldn't tell him. Couldn't admit I'd borrowed money from a loan shark, that I was drowning in debt, that I was exactly the kind of liability he couldn't afford to have in his organization. It's personal, I whispered. Please don't ask me to explain. Theo's jaw worked. Personal. That's your answer. It's the only answer I can give. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then he turned away, running a hand through his hair, the first sign of agitation I'd ever seen from him. I want you to go home, he said finally. Take the rest of the day. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Theo, that's not a request. He wouldn't look at me. Go home, Tessa. Before I say something we'll both regret. I gathered my things with shaking hands, acutely aware that everything had just changed. At the door, I paused, some desperate part of me needing to explain, to make him understand. I'm sorry, I said quietly. He didn't respond, didn't turn around, just stood there by the window, staring out at his city, while I walked away from the only safe thing in my crumbling world. I didn't know it then, but Vincent Russo was already planning his next move, and when he made it, Everything I'd tried to protect would come crashing down around me. The cage had closed. I just hadn't realized I was already trapped inside. The hospice room smelled of antiseptic and death. I'd been sitting by Mom's bed for 3 hours, watching her sleep, when my phone buzzed for the 15th time. I ignored it like I'd ignored the previous 14 calls from unknown numbers. Vincent was making his move. I'd expected it the moment I left Theo's office yesterday, but the speed still caught me off guard. First came the flowers, white lilies, the kind you send to funerals, delivered to the hospice with a card that read, "Time's running out." Then the texts from burner phones, each one a reminder of what I owed, what would happen if I didn't pay. But it was the photo that made my hands shake. A picture of me leaving Carrington Tower yesterday, taken from across the street. The message beneath it was simple. Your boss can't protect you from everything. I deleted it immediately, but the damage was done. Vincent knew where I worked, where my mother was dying, probably where I lived. He'd done his homework, mapping out every piece of my life he could use as leverage. "Tessa?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Her eyes opened, clouded with morphine, but still sharp enough to see through me. "What's wrong?" "Everything. My world is falling apart, and I can't stop it." "Nothing, Mom. Just work stress." The lie came easily now, practiced over weeks of hiding the truth. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm dying." Her attempt at humor broke my heart. Which, to be fair, I am. She reached for my hand with fingers that felt like bird bones. "You look scared, baby." "Talk to me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to pour out everything. The debt, Vincent's threats, my impossible attraction to Theo, the way I felt like I was drowning with no way to surface. But she had enough burdens without adding mine to the weight. "I'm fine." I lied again. "Really? You should rest." Her fingers tightened on mine with surprising strength. "I'm your mother. I know when you're lying. Whatever's happening, whatever you're hiding." She broke off, coughing, and I had to help her sit up until the fit passed. When she could breathe again, her eyes held mine with fierce determination. "You've always been too proud to ask for help, just like your father, but pride is a luxury we can't afford anymore." Before I could respond, the door opened. I expected the nurse. Instead, Marco filled the doorway, his bulk somehow polite in the small room. "Miss Morgan." His gravelly voice was respectful but firm. "Mr. Carrington would like to see you, now." My stomach dropped. "I'm with my mother." "He's aware. He said to tell you it's urgent." Marco's expression softened fractionally as he looked at Mom. "We can wait in the hall while you say goodbye." The "we" registered. I glanced past him to see another of Theo's security men stationed outside. How long had they been there? How had I not noticed? "Go," Mom said, reading my hesitation. "Whatever this is about, it sounds important." I kissed her forehead, promised to return later, and followed Marco into the hallway. His partner, a younger man I didn't recognize, fell into step behind us. "How long have you been watching me?" I asked as we headed for the elevator. Marco's expression remained neutral. "Since you left the office yesterday. Boss's orders." "He's having me followed?" "He's having you protected." The distinction seemed important to Marco. There's a difference. The elevator ride down was silent, but my mind raced. Theo had put security on me without asking, without telling me. Part of me wanted to be angry about the invasion of privacy. The larger part was terrified about what it meant. We exited into the parking garage where a black SUV waited, engine running. Marco opened the rear door, and I slid in before I could second-guess myself. The interior was leather and luxury, but it was the laptop open on the seat beside me that caught my attention. A note was stuck to the screen in Theo's decisive handwriting. "Watch this. Then we talk." I picked up the laptop with trembling fingers. The video was already queued up, time-stamped from this morning. Security footage from somewhere, a restaurant maybe, based on the booth seating visible in frame. Vincent Russo sat across from a man I didn't recognize. The audio was clear enough to hear their conversation. "So Carrington's assistant is the one who owes you?" the unknown man asked. Vincent's smile was cruel. 70 grand. She borrowed it for her mother's cancer treatment. Experimental drugs, very expensive, very unsuccessful. And she can't pay? Not even close, which is where it gets interesting. Vincent leaned forward, lowering his voice but not enough to escape the recording. Carrington's got it bad for her. Saw it yesterday. The way he looked at her, positioned himself between us. That's not just boss protecting employee. That's possession. So you use her to get to him? Better. I use her to make him vulnerable. Get her to feed us information, or threaten to tell Carrington about her debt and see him go ballistic trying to protect her. Either way, we leverage the weakness. Vincent's expression turned calculating. Dimitri wants to move against Carrington's territory. This girl is our way in. The video ended. I sat frozen in the back of the SUV, my blood ice in my veins. Vincent wasn't just collecting a debt. He was weaponizing it, using me to hurt Theo. The driver pulled up to Carrington Tower. Marco opened my door, his expression grim. 42nd floor. He's waiting. I made it to Theo's office on autopilot, my mind still processing what I'd heard. Marco opened the door for me, then closed it quietly, leaving us alone. Theo stood by his window again, his thinking spot I'd learned. He didn't turn when I entered. "I've had Vincent Russo under surveillance for 6 weeks," he said quietly. "Dimitri's been making noise about expansion, and Vincent is his new muscle. I needed to know what they were planning." He finally turned to face me. In the afternoon light, I could see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. He'd been up all night, I realized. Watching that footage, connecting the dots, understanding exactly how deep my trouble went. "I didn't know the woman he was talking about was you." His voice was carefully controlled, but fury simmered beneath. "Not until I saw this morning's footage. Then suddenly, everything made sense. Your distraction, your exhaustion, the fear in your eyes yesterday when he walked in. Theo. $70,000. He said the number like it physically hurt him. For your mother's treatment. You borrowed from a loan shark instead of asking me for help." The accusation in his voice stung. "We barely knew each other when I needed the money. You were my boss, not my—" I stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "Not my what? Friend? More? Not your what, Tessa?" He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides. "Finish that sentence. Tell me what you think I am to you." I backed up until I hit his desk. "My employer, that's all." "Liar." The word was soft but absolute. He braced his hands on the desk on either side of me, caging me in. "You feel this between us. I know you do. I see it every time you look at me, every time you flinch when I get close, every time you bite that lip when you're trying not to stare." Heat flooded my face. "That's inappropriate. Everything about what I want to do to you is inappropriate." His eyes darkened, pupils dilating. "But that doesn't make it less true. I've spent 11 months trying to be professional, trying to give you space, trying to ignore the fact that I want you so badly I can barely think straight. And the whole time, you were drowning and didn't trust me enough to tell me. It's not about trust. Then what is it about?" His voice rose for the first time. "Because from where I'm standing, you'd rather owe money to a man who wants to use you as a weapon against me than ask me for help. Do you know what that does to me? Do you understand what it means that you'd choose a loan shark over me? The raw pain in his voice stopped me cold. This wasn't just about the money or Vincent's threats. This was about me not coming to him, not seeing him as someone who would help. I couldn't ask you, I whispered. You're my boss. I can't mix up my professional life with my personal problems, and I definitely can't. I stopped again, but this time he wouldn't let it go. Can't what? His face was inches from mine now. Can't admit there's something between us? Can't acknowledge that we've been circling each other for months? Can't accept that I'd burn down half this city before letting Vincent Russo hurt you? Stop. My hands came up to press against his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath expensive fabric. This can't happen. Whatever you think you feel, I don't think anything. I know. His hand cupped my face with devastating gentleness. I know that you're the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing on my mind before I sleep. I know that watching you work is the highlight of my day. I know that when Vincent looked at you yesterday, I wanted to put a bullet between his eyes for daring to let his gaze linger that long. My breath caught. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because it scares you? Because it makes this real? His thumb traced my cheekbone. I've terrified you from the beginning, haven't I? Not because of what I do, but because of how you feel when I'm near you. He was right. God help me. He was completely right. I was terrified. Of him, of this, of the way my body leaned into his touch despite every logical reason to pull away. Vincent will use me against you, I said desperately. That's his plan. Either I give him information, or he exposes the debt and watches you react. Either way, I'm a liability you can't afford. Let me worry about Vincent. His expression hardened. I've already handled the immediate threat. Your debt, paid in full as of an hour ago. The money's been transferred to his account with instructions that you're no longer his concern. I went rigid. You paid... Theo, that's $70,000. I don't care if it was $700,000. His other hand found my waist, pulling me flush against him. You're mine to protect, Tessa. That means your debts are my debts. Your problems are my problems. Your mother's treatment is my concern. I can't let you do that. It's already done. His voice softened. Your mother needs a bone marrow transplant, doesn't she? The experimental drugs failed, and transplant is her only option now. My eyes burned with unshed tears. How did you... I know everything about you. Your mother's diagnosis, her treatment history, the fact that you've been tested and aren't a match. I know about your father dying when you were 12, about you putting yourself through community college while working 2 jobs, about the apartment you rent in a building with broken locks because it's all you can afford. His thumb caught a tear that escaped. I know you, Tessa, and I'm not letting you fight this alone anymore. The tenderness in his voice undid me completely. I'd spent so long being strong, being independent, refusing to need anyone. But Theo was offering something I hadn't had in years, someone to lean on, someone who saw my struggles and wanted to help carry the weight. Why? The question came out broken. Why do you care this much? His answer was simple, devastating. Because you're mine. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He released me with obvious reluctance, stepping back to check the message. His expression darkened. Vincent just withdrew the money. He looked up at me. Which means he knows I'm involved now. This just became personal for him, not about the debt anymore, but about challenging me. Fear spiked through my relief. What will he do? He'll push back, try to prove I can't protect what's mine. Theo's jaw clenched. Which is why you're not going home tonight. You're staying at my penthouse where I have security. We'll deal with your mother's situation tomorrow. I'm having her transferred to a private facility with better care while we search for a donor match. Theo, that's too much. It's not enough. He pulled me back against him, his embrace almost desperate. Don't you understand yet? I would give you everything, Tessa. My money, my protection, my life if necessary. Because the thought of losing you, of Vincent or anyone else hurting you. His voice roughened. It's not something I can tolerate. I should have pulled away, should have maintained boundaries, kept things professional. Instead, I let myself lean into his strength, breathing in his scent, allowing myself this moment of being held by someone who actually wanted to shoulder my burdens. I'm scared, I admitted against his chest. I know. His lips brushed my hair. But you don't have to be scared alone anymore. The phone buzzed again. Then again. Theo tensed, reading the messages over my shoulder. When he cursed under his breath, I knew it was bad. What is it? He turned the phone so I could see. Security footage from the hospice, timestamped 20 minutes ago. Vincent Russo walking through the lobby, heading toward the elevators, toward my mother's room. Marco, Theo barked into his phone. Get to St. Catherine's Hospice now. Russo's there. I want him nowhere near Trudy Morgan, understand? Use whatever force necessary. He hung up, then pulled me toward the door. We're going, now. The drive to the hospice was the longest 15 minutes of my life. Theo kept his hand on my knee the entire way, his touch grounding even as terror threatened to consume me. If Vincent hurt my mother, if he used her fragile state to send me a message. We screeched to a stop outside the main entrance. Marco was already there, blocking Vincent's path to the elevators. Even from the car, I could see the tension in both men's stances. Theo was out before the vehicle fully stopped. I scrambled after him, my heels clicking on the polished floor as we approached. Just trying to visit a friend, Vincent was saying, his tone mockingly innocent. You don't have friends in this building. Marco's voice was granite. Turn around and leave. Last warning. Vincent's eyes found me behind Theo. Tessa, I was hoping to run into you. Wanted to thank you for the unexpected payment. Very generous of your boss. Stay away from her mother, Theo said quietly. Too quietly. This is between us now. Leave Tessa and Trudy out of it. But that's not as fun. Vincent's smile was all teeth. See, I realized something today. You care about this girl. Really care. That makes her valuable in ways beyond the money she owed me. He looked at me. You should ask your boss what happened to the last person he cared about, Tessa. Ask him about Elena Volkov. Theo went absolutely still. Get out, now, before I forget we're in a public place. Something in Theo's voice must have convinced Vincent he'd pushed far enough. He raised his hands in surrender, backing toward the exit. This isn't over, Carrington. Not by a long shot. Only when Vincent disappeared through the doors did Theo turn to me. The raw emotion on his face stole my breath. Fury and fear, and something that looked almost like grief. Who's Elena Volkov? I asked. His expression shuddered. Someone I failed to protect. Someone I lost because I didn't see the threat until it was too late. He cupped my face between his hands. That's not happening with you. I won't let it. The vow in his voice was absolute. And as he led me to the elevator, his hand never leaving mine, I realized the cage hadn't just closed. I'd willingly walked into it. And God help me, I didn't want to leave. Mom was sleeping when we reached her room. The morphine drip had been increased, the nurse explained quietly, after she'd become agitated following a visitor. My blood ran cold at the confirmation. Vincent had gotten to her before Marco arrived. What did he say to her? I demanded, my voice sharper than intended. The nurse looked uncomfortable. He asked about you, where you lived, where you worked. Information she refused to give him. That's when she became upset, and we had to sedate her. Theo's hand found the small of my back, steadying me. "Thank you. We'll sit with her for a while." Once we were alone, I sank into the chair beside Mom's bed, taking her hand in mine. She looked so fragile, her skin paper-thin, her breathing shallow. The idea of Vincent in this room, threatening her, using her to get to me. I should have told you sooner. The confession spilled out before I could stop it. About the debt, about Vincent, about all of it. Maybe if I had, he wouldn't have. "This isn't your fault." Theo crouched beside my chair, his hand covering both of mine. Vincent would have made his move regardless. Men like him always do. Men like him. I looked at Theo, really looked at him. What about men like you? You've been so careful to keep me separate from your business, but we both know what you really do. The real estate empire, the legitimate holdings. That's not where your power comes from, is it? He was quiet for a long moment. No, it's not. Tell me about Elena Volkov. His jaw tightened. That's not a conversation for here. Then where? Because you're asking me to trust you with my life, with my mother's life, and I don't even know what happened to the last person you tried to protect. Something in my voice must have reached him because he stood, running a hand through his hair in that gesture of agitation I'd only seen twice before. Fine, but not here. Your mother needs rest. And this conversation... He stopped. It requires privacy. 30 minutes later, we were in Theo's penthouse. I'd never been here before. Had only heard rumors about the top-floor apartment that took up the entire 45th story of Carrington Tower. The reality was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline, minimalist furniture in shades of charcoal and cream, artwork that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. But it was the photo on his desk that stopped me. A young woman, maybe 20, with dark hair and Dmitry Volkov's eyes. She was laughing in the picture, caught in a moment of pure joy. "Elena," I said softly. Theo nodded, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter. He handed me one before settling onto the leather sofa, his expression distant. She was Dmitry's daughter. We grew up together. Our fathers did business, so we were constantly around each other. She was like a sister to me. The past tense wasn't lost on me. I sat beside him, close enough to offer comfort, but not touching. What happened? I was 24, just taking over my father's operations after he had a heart attack. Elena was 20, studying art history at Northwestern, completely removed from the family business. Or so I thought. He took a long drink. Turned out she'd been dating someone, a rival family's enforcer. She thought it was secret, thought she could keep those worlds separate. But she couldn't. No, her boyfriend was using her to get information on Dmitry's operations. When I found out, I tried to warn her, tried to make her see what he really was. She didn't believe me. Said I was just being overprotective, that not everyone in this life was a monster. His voice roughened. 2 weeks later, she was dead. Car accident officially. But I knew better. So did Dmitry. Her boyfriend had gotten what he needed, and she'd become a liability. The grief in his voice was raw, even after what I assumed were years. I'm sorry. I failed her. He set his glass down with controlled precision. I saw the threat. I knew what would happen, and I still couldn't protect her. Because I respected her independence, I gave her space to make her own choices, and those choices got her killed. Understanding dawned. That's why you're so intense about protecting me, why you paid my debt without asking, why you have security following me. You're not going to make the same mistake twice. No, I'm not. He turned to face me fully. Elena died because I wasn't decisive enough, Because I let her push me away when I should have pulled her closer and kept her safe whether she wanted it or not. I won't make that mistake with you, Tessa. I can't. The conviction in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it stirred something deep in my chest, a warmth that had been growing for months, fed by late nights in his office, by the way he looked at me like I was precious, by moments like this where he let me see beneath the controlled exterior. What are you saying exactly? I asked quietly. I'm saying you're mine to protect now, officially, completely. He reached for me, his hands framing my face with devastating gentleness. I'm saying I've spent 11 months trying to keep things professional, trying to give you space, trying to ignore what I feel every time you walk into a room. But after today, after Vincent, after seeing how close I came to losing you, his forehead touched mine. I'm done pretending this is just about protection or professional responsibility. It's more. You're more. My heart hammered against my ribs. Theo, I know the risks. I know you work for me, that there's a power imbalance, that this complicates everything. I know you probably think I'm being possessive and overbearing and crossing a dozen lines. His thumb traced my lower lip. But I also know that when I thought Vincent might have hurt you today, something in me broke. The idea of you scared and alone, of you in danger. I can't tolerate it, Tessa. I won't. This is crazy. But even as I said it, my hands came to rest on his chest, feeling his heart race beneath my palms. We barely know each other outside of work. This intensity, this possessiveness, it's too much too fast. Is it? His eyes searched mine. You've been in my office every day for 11 months. I know how you take your coffee, black with 1 sugar, but only in the morning. You drink it plain after noon. I know you bite your thumbnail when you're concentrating, that you tuck your hair behind your right ear when you're nervous, that you have a small scar on your left wrist from a childhood bike accident. I know you're left-handed, but you learned to use your right because your father was left-handed, and after he died, using your left felt wrong. Each observation hit like a physical touch. I hadn't realized he'd been paying such close attention, learning me the way I'd been learning him. I know you prefer chocolate to vanilla, he continued, his voice dropping lower. That you hate wearing heels but do it anyway because you think it makes you look more professional. I know you read mystery novels on your lunch break and always skip to the last page first because you can't stand not knowing how it ends. I know your mother's favorite flowers are sunflowers, that you wanted to be a writer before life got in the way, that you're terrified of deep water because you almost drowned when you were 8. Stop. My voice broke. How do you know all of that? Because I've been obsessed with you since the day you started working for me. His confession was raw, unguarded. You walked into that interview wearing a suit 2 sizes too big, borrowed from someone, I later found out, and you looked me in the eye and told me you weren't qualified for the position, but you were desperate and willing to work harder than anyone else I could hire. That honesty, that fire. I was lost right then. The memory flooded back. I'd been so nervous that day, fresh from being laid off from my previous job, drowning in my mother's medical bills even then. I'd applied for the assistant position expecting nothing, and somehow Theo had looked past my lack of qualifications and given me a chance. You hired me because you were attracted to me? The question came out accusatory. No, I hired you because you were hungry and honest and clearly smarter than your resume suggested. The attraction was just, he smiled wryly, an unexpected complication, one I've spent almost a year trying to ignore. Why tell me now? Because Vincent forced my hand. Because keeping you at arm's length isn't keeping you safe. It's making you vulnerable. If you're going to have a target on your back because of me, you deserve to know why. His hands tightened on my face. You deserve to know that this isn't just protection. It's possession. It's wanting you so badly I can barely function. It's needing you close where I can keep you safe and see you and know you're okay. My breath came in short gasps, This was too much, too intense. But God help me. Part of me wanted it. Wanted him. Had wanted him for months while telling myself it was impossible. Inappropriate. Dangerous. What about my choice in this? I whispered. You keep saying I'm yours, but you haven't asked if I want to be. Something flickered in his eyes. Vulnerability I'd never seen before. You're right. I'm so busy trying to protect you that I haven't given you any agency. He pulled back slightly, giving me space. So, I'm asking now. Tessa Morgan, do you want this? Do you want me? Knowing what I am? Knowing the life I lead? Knowing that being with me means entering a world of danger and moral compromise? The honest answer terrified me. I don't know what I want. Everything's happening so fast. My mom, the debt, Vincent, you. I can't think straight. Then don't think. His voice was pure temptation. For once, don't analyze or overthink or worry about all the ways this could go wrong. Just tell me, when I touch you like this. His fingers traced down my throat. Do you want me to stop? No. The admission escaped before I could censor it. When I look at you the way I am right now, like I want to devour you, does it scare you? Yes. My hands fisted in his shirt. But not the way you think. It scares me because I want it. Because every time you get close, I forget all the reasons why this is a terrible idea. His smile was slow, predatory. Good. Because I'm done giving you space to overthink this. I'm done pretending I don't want you. I'm done being professional when all I want is to make you mine in every way that matters. He kissed me then. Not gentle, not asking permission, but claiming. His mouth moved over mine with desperate hunger, and I responded instinctively, matching his intensity. My fingers tangled in his hair as his hands gripped my waist, pulling me into his lap. This was madness. We were in his penthouse. I was still reeling from Vincent's threats. My mother was dying, and I was kissing my boss like the world was ending. But none of that mattered when Theo's tongue swept against mine, when his hand slid beneath my blouse to find bare skin, when he groaned my name like a prayer. Say it, he demanded against my lips. Say you're mine. Some last vestige of self-preservation made me hesitate. This doesn't solve anything. Vincent's still a threat. My mother's still dying. All our problems are still... I'll handle Vincent. I'll get your mother into the best treatment facility in the country and we'll find a donor. I'll solve every problem you have, Tessa. But I need you to give me this. His eyes burned into mine. I need you to choose me. Choose us. Choose to stop fighting this thing between us. The desperation in his voice undid me. Here was one of Chicago's most powerful men, someone who could have anything he wanted, begging me to choose him. Not demanding, not taking, asking. What happens if I say yes? I asked. What does choosing you mean exactly? It means you let me protect you. It means you stop trying to handle everything alone. It means... He took a shaky breath. It means you're mine, and I'm yours. Completely. No more boundaries, no more professional distance. Just us, figuring this out together. The offer was tempting. Too tempting. Because beyond the physical attraction, beyond the heat between us, was something deeper. Theo saw me. Really saw me. My struggles, my fears, my desperate attempts to keep everything together. And instead of judging, he wanted to help carry the weight. I'm not saying I'm agreeing to everything, I said carefully. But maybe we could try. See what this is when we're not pretending it doesn't exist. His smile could have lit the Chicago skyline. That's all I'm asking for. A chance to prove you belong with me. He kissed me again, slower this time, savoring, And as I melted into him, letting him pull me closer, I realized I'd already made my choice. I'd chosen him the moment I didn't pull away, the moment I kissed him back, the moment I admitted I wanted this despite every logical reason to run. I was Theodore Carrington's. The question was, would that save me or destroy me? Only time would tell. The morning after I chose Theo, I woke up in his bed. Nothing had happened beyond the kissing. He'd been surprisingly restrained, pulling back when things got too heated and insisting I needed rest. But sleeping in his penthouse, in his space, surrounded by his scent on the pillows, felt more intimate than anything physical could have been. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed in a navy suit, making coffee with the precision he brought to everything. He looked up when I entered, and the heat in his eyes made me acutely aware that I was wearing nothing but his shirt. "Good morning." His voice was rough, intimate. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months." It was true. Despite everything, despite the chaos of my life, I'd slept deeply for the first time since Mom's diagnosis. He crossed to me, handing me a cup of coffee prepared exactly how I liked it. "We need to talk about the next steps. Your safety, your mother's treatment, Vincent." Reality crashed back. For a few blissful moments, I'd forgotten about the threats closing in. "What did you have in mind?" "First, your mother. I've made arrangements with Northwestern Memorial's Transplant Center, the best in the region. They're expecting her this afternoon. Full donor search, experimental treatments if necessary, whatever it takes." He paused. "I've also put her on every registry in the country. If there's a match out there, we'll find it." Tears pricked my eyes. "Theo, I can't afford." "I can, and I am." His tone left no room for argument. "Second, your apartment. You're not going back there. Vincent knows where you live, and I'm not leaving you vulnerable." "So where am I supposed to stay?" "Here, with me." He set down his coffee cup. "I know it's fast. I know you probably want your own space. But until Vincent is dealt with, I need you where I can protect you. Where my security can monitor every entrance, every visitor, every potential threat." The cage was closing again, but this time I couldn't summon the energy to fight it. He was right. My apartment wasn't safe. And the truth was, being near Theo felt safer than anywhere else. "For how long?" "Until I've eliminated the threat." His expression hardened. "Which brings me to Vincent. I've put word out through my channels. He's to stay away from you, your mother, anyone connected to you. But Vincent's ambitious. He won't back down just because I told him to." "So what happens now?" "Now we wait for him to make his move, and when he does, I end him." The casual way he said it sent chills down my spine. "In the meantime, you'll have security with you at all times. Marco during the day, Stefan at night. Non-negotiable." I should have argued. Should have insisted I didn't need constant guards. But after yesterday, after seeing Vincent at the hospice, I knew better. "Okay." Surprise flickered across Theo's face. "Okay? No argument?" "You were right yesterday. I've been too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to admit I was drowning. But I'm done pretending I can handle this alone." I moved closer, my hands finding his chest. "If you're offering to help my mother, to protect us both, I'm not going to let pride get in the way." His arms came around me, pulling me flush against him. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear you say that." The next few days settled into a new rhythm. Mornings with Theo before he left for meetings I wasn't invited to. Days spent at Northwestern with Mom, who'd been transferred to a private suite that looked more like a hotel room than a hospital. Evenings back at the penthouse, where Theo and I navigated this new intimacy with careful steps. We hadn't slept together yet, not fully. He seemed determined to give me time to adjust, to make sure I was choosing this for the right reasons. But the tension between us built with each passing day, Each heated kiss that stopped just short of more. Each night I fell asleep in his arms, wanting things I was afraid to name. It was on the 4th day that everything shifted. I was at the hospital with Mom when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me in the parking garage. Level 3. Come alone or your mother has an accident. My blood turned to ice. I looked up to find Mom sleeping peacefully, her monitors steady. Nothing seemed wrong, but the threat was clear. I should have called Theo immediately. Should have gotten Marco, who was stationed outside Mom's room. But the message said, come alone, and some desperate part of me couldn't risk my mother's safety by disobeying. The parking garage was dim, fluorescent lights casting sickly shadows. I made it to level 3 before I saw him, Vincent, leaning against a concrete pillar, arms crossed. Tessa, glad you could make it. His smile was all predator. What do you want? I kept my distance, acutely aware that I'd made a terrible mistake coming here alone. What I've always wanted. Access. He pushed off the pillar, approaching slowly. See, Carrington paying off your debt was insulting. Like I'm some errand boy who can be bought off. But you... His eyes raked over me in a way that made my skin crawl. You're the key to bringing him down. I won't help you hurt Theo. Won't you? He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo. Theo leaving his office building that morning. The angle suggested it had been taken by a sniper. One call, and he's dead. Unless you give me what I want. Which is? Information. Access codes to his private accounts. Names of his contacts in city government. Details about his shipping operations. Vincent's smile widened. Everything that will let Dimitri and me take over his territory piece by piece. He'll know it came from me. Probably. But you'll be long gone by then. I'll give you enough money to take your mother and disappear. Start fresh somewhere Carrington can't find you. He paused. Or you can refuse, and I put a bullet in his head. Your choice. Panic clawed at my throat. This was worse than I'd imagined. Vincent wasn't just threatening me. He was using me as a weapon against the one person who'd tried to help. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. Meet me here, same time, with the information. Or Carrington dies. Vincent turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Tessa? If you tell him about this meeting, I'll know. And your mother's monitors might malfunction. Accidents happen in hospitals all the time. He disappeared into the shadows, leaving me shaking in the empty garage. I made it back to Mom's room on autopilot. Marco looked up from his phone when I entered, frowning. You okay? You look pale. Fine, just needed some air. The lie came automatically, but guilt churned in my stomach. I should tell him. Should call Theo immediately. But Vincent's threat echoed in my mind. If you tell him, I'll know. How would he know? Did he have someone watching? Someone in Theo's organization feeding him information? That night, back at the penthouse, Theo knew something was wrong. You've barely eaten. He gestured to my untouched plate. And you've been quiet all evening. What's going on? Just worried about Mom. Another lie. They were piling up, suffocating me. The donor search hasn't turned up anything yet. It's only been 4 days. These things take time. He reached across the table, taking my hand. Hey, look at me. I forced myself to meet his eyes, those gray eyes that saw too much. Whatever it is, you can tell me. We're in this together now, remember? His thumb stroked across my knuckles. No more secrets. The irony nearly broke me. Here he was, offering complete honesty, while I sat across from him hiding a threat that could get him killed. But what choice did I have? If I told him, Vincent might follow through. If I didn't, I'd be betraying the one person who'd actually tried to save me. I'm just tired. I pulled my hand away, standing abruptly. I think I'll go to bed early. Hurt flickered across his face, but he nodded. Okay. I have some work to finish anyway. I'll join you later. I escaped to the bedroom, my mind racing. 24 hours. That's all I had to figure out what to do. Give Vincent the information and watch him destroy Theo? Refuse and risk Theo's life along with my mother's? Tell Theo everything and hope Vincent was bluffing about having eyes inside the organization? I was still wrestling with the impossible choice when the bedroom door opened an hour later. Theo entered, already loosening his tie, his expression troubled. We need to talk. He sat on the edge of the bed, his body language tense, and this time, I need you to be completely honest with me. My heart stopped. About what? About where you went this afternoon. Marco said you disappeared for 20 minutes. Security footage shows you going to the parking garage. His eyes held mine. Who did you meet, Tessa? The direct question shattered my resolve. I couldn't lie to him, not when he was looking at me like that. Not when he'd given me so much and asked for so little in return. Vincent, I whispered. He texted me, threatened my mother if I didn't come alone. Theo went absolutely still. What did he want? Information about your business. Access codes, contact names, shipping details. Tears spilled down my cheeks. He said if I don't give it to him by tomorrow night, he'll kill you. And if I tell you, he'll hurt my mother. He said he has someone watching. Someone who'll know if I talk. Son of a bitch. Theo stood, pacing to the window. He's trying to isolate you, make you think you have no options. It's a classic manipulation tactic. But what if he's telling the truth? What if he does have someone inside your organization? Then we find them and eliminate them. He turned back to me, his expression hard. But first, we deal with Vincent. Permanently. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it brought relief. How? By giving him exactly what he wants. Or at least, making him think we are. Theo pulled out his phone, sending a rapid series of texts. You're going to that meeting tomorrow, but you won't be alone. And the information you give him will be carefully designed to expose his own operation while protecting mine. He'll know it's fake. Not if we're smart about it. I'll have my tech team create access codes that look legitimate, but actually trigger alerts when used. Names of contacts that are really undercover FBI agents. Shipping manifests that lead nowhere. His smile was cold. Vincent wants to use you as a weapon against me? Fine. We'll use him to clean up Dimitri's entire operation. I stared at him, seeing for the first time the tactical mind that had built his empire. This wasn't just about brute force. It was chess, played with lives and loyalties, and careful manipulation. What about the threat to my mother? I'm moving her tonight, to a private facility outside the city where Vincent can't reach her. She'll have round-the-clock security and better care than Northwestern can provide. He crossed back to me, pulling me to my feet. And you? You're staying right here where I can protect you. No more secrets, Tessa. No more trying to handle threats alone. If Vincent or anyone else comes after you, you tell me immediately. Understood? I nodded, relief and guilt warring inside me. I'm sorry I didn't tell you right away. I was just so scared. I know. He kissed my forehead, gentle despite the violence simmering beneath his surface. But you're mine to protect now. That means trusting me to keep you safe, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Mine. That word again, claiming and possessive. But this time, instead of frightening me, it felt like a promise. A vow that I wasn't alone anymore. What happens after tomorrow? I asked. After we trap Vincent? After tomorrow, you're safe. Your mother's safe. And Vincent Russo learns what happens to people who threaten what's mine. His eyes darkened with promise and threat. But tonight, you're here with me, and I'm not letting you out of my sight. He pulled me into bed, tucking me against his chest with possessive tenderness. And as I lay there, listening to his heartbeat, I realized I'd stopped fighting the cage. Because maybe it wasn't a cage at all. Maybe it was armor. Protection against a world that had tried to break me. Maybe being Theodore Carrington's was exactly where I needed to be. The 24 hours before the meeting with Vincent passed in a blur of preparation. Theo's tech team, people I'd never met, who appeared in the penthouse like ghosts and disappeared just as quickly, created an entire fabricated digital trail. Access codes that would trigger silent alarms. Contact lists filled with federal agents posing as corrupt officials. Shipping manifests that would lead Vincent straight into an FBI sting operation. He won't suspect it's fake? I asked for the 10th time, watching them work. Theo's hand found the small of my back, grounding me. He'll suspect, but his greed will override his caution. Men like Vincent always think they're smarter than they are. That evening, as the sun set over Chicago, Theo pulled me into his office. The city sprawled beneath us, millions of lights beginning to flicker on as darkness fell. From up here, it looked peaceful. Beautiful, even. Nothing like the dangerous game we were about to play. I need you to understand something. Theo turned me to face him, his hands cupping my face. When you meet Vincent tomorrow, you'll be wired. I'll hear every word. I'll have men positioned throughout that garage, on every level, in every stairwell. If he so much as touches you wrong, they'll move in. What if he searches me for a wire? He won't get the chance. The device is embedded in your necklace. He pulled a delicate gold chain from his pocket, a small pendant dangling from it. It's also a panic button. You press it once, and my men converge on your location within seconds. I took the necklace with trembling fingers. The pendant was a tiny compass, beautiful and innocuous. Why a compass? His smile was soft, intimate. So you always know which way is home, which way leads back to me. The sentiment undid me. This dangerous man with his empire of shadows and blood, he was offering me a way home, a tether to safety in the midst of chaos. Theo, I started, but he stopped me with a kiss, not desperate or demanding, but achingly tender. Come back to me tomorrow, he whispered against my lips. That's all I ask. Give Vincent the information, let him think he's won, and come home. I'll handle the rest. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in Theo's arms, feeling his steady breathing, trying to memorize every detail. The way his hand rested possessively on my hip, the warmth of his chest against my back, the security of being held by someone who'd burn the world down before letting harm come to me. You're thinking too loud, he murmured in the darkness. I can practically hear your mind racing. I'm scared. The admission came easier in the dark. What if something goes wrong tomorrow? What if Vincent figures it out and... Then I kill him. Simple. Absolute. I've been playing nice, Tessa, trying to handle this through proper channels. But if he threatens you directly, if he so much as raises his voice at you, I'm done being civilized. Do you understand what I'm saying? I did. I understood that Theo's restraint had limits, that his protection came with a price, violence delivered on my behalf, blood spilled to keep me safe. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt something closer to relief. I understand, I whispered. His arms tightened around me. After tomorrow, this is over. Vincent will be dealt with. Your mother will be safe in the new facility, and you and I... He paused. We'll figure out what we are to each other without all these external threats. What do you think we are? Mine. That word again, possessive and absolute. You're mine, Tessa, and I'm yours. Everything else is just details. The parking garage at 3 p.m. was exactly as grim as I remembered. I descended to level 3 with Marco trailing me at a distance, far enough that Vincent wouldn't immediately spot him, close enough to intervene if needed. The necklace Theo had given me felt heavy against my throat, a reminder of the lifeline I carried. Vincent was waiting in the same spot, arms crossed, that predatory smile firmly in place. Tessa, right on time. I appreciate punctuality. I have what you wanted. I held up the USB drive that Theo's team had prepared. Everything you asked for: access codes, contact lists, shipping manifests. Just like that? No fight, no attempt to protect your boyfriend? Vincent's eyes narrowed. I'm almost disappointed. He's not my boyfriend. He's my boss. The lie tasted bitter. And I'm not dying to protect his criminal empire. You want the information? Take it. Just leave me and my mother alone. Vincent crossed to me, his hand reaching for the drive. I forced myself not to flinch as his fingers brushed mine, taking the USB. See? That wasn't so hard. And now you're free, Tessa. Free from Carrington. Free from the debt. Free to disappear and start over. That's it? You'll just let me go? Why wouldn't I? I've got what I need. Carrington's entire operation on a silver platter thanks to you. He pocketed the drive. Though I have to say, I'm curious. Does he know you're here right now? Does he know his precious assistant is selling him out? The question was a test. I kept my expression neutral. He thinks I'm at the hospital with my mother. He doesn't know about any of this. Good. Vincent's smile widened. Then there's no reason for him to connect you to what happens next. When his accounts start getting drained, when his contacts start getting arrested, when his entire empire comes crashing down, you'll be long gone. Just another employee who quit without notice. Disgust churned in my stomach, but I kept it hidden. When do I get the money you promised? Impatient, are we? Don't worry. Give me 24 hours to verify this information is legitimate, and I'll wire you $100,000. More than enough to take Mommy and disappear. He turned to leave, but paused, looking back at me over his shoulder. You know, you're smarter than I gave you credit for. Most women in your position would have told Carrington everything, trusted him to protect them. But you understood the truth. In this world, everyone's expendable. Even pretty little assistants that bosses think they're in love with. The words hit harder than they should have. Was that what I was to Theo? Someone he thought he loved until I became inconvenient? No. I pushed the doubt away. Theo had proven himself again and again. This was Vincent playing mind games, trying to shake my confidence. Goodbye, Vincent. I turned and walked away, forcing myself not to run, not to show fear. Only when I reached the stairwell where Marco waited did I let myself breathe. You did good, Marco said quietly, falling into step beside me. Boss heard everything. He's moving on Vincent now. Now? But I thought we were waiting for him to use the information. Change of plans. Vincent made a mistake. Marco's smile was grim. He threatened you directly. Told his associate earlier today that once he verified the data, he was going to kill you anyway. Couldn't risk you going back to Carrington and warning him. Ice flooded my veins. He was going to kill me? He was going to try. But Boss has had Vincent's communications tapped since yesterday. The second he made that threat, it was over. Marco held open the door to the parking structure's exit. Vincent Russo just signed his own death warrant. The drive back to Carrington Tower was silent. I sat in the back of the SUV, my hands shaking despite the heat pumping through the vents. Vincent had planned to kill me all along. Even if I'd given him real information, even if I'd betrayed Theo completely, it wouldn't have mattered. I'd been dead the moment I became useful to him. The penthouse was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. I found Theo in his office, standing by the windows, his phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking in rapid Italian, his tone cold and commanding. When he saw me, something in his expression shifted, the coldness melting into relief. "Handle it," he said into the phone, then ended the call. 3 strides and he was across the room, pulling me into his arms with desperate intensity. "You're safe. You're here. You're safe." "What's happening with Vincent?" "He's being dealt with as we speak." Theo's voice was muffled against my hair. "My men picked him up 10 minutes ago. He's currently being questioned about his plans to kill you." The implication was clear. Questioned meant tortured, meant Vincent was paying for his threats in blood and pain. I should have felt sick. Should have begged Theo to stop, to show mercy. Instead, I felt nothing but relief. "Good," I whispered. Theo pulled back, studying my face with those intense gray eyes. "You're not upset?" He was going to kill me, even after I gave him what he wanted. He was going to kill me to cover his tracks. My voice was steadier than I expected. "So no, I'm not upset that he's facing consequences. I'm just—" I stopped, trying to articulate the tangle of emotions. "I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of being a target. Tired of people thinking they can use me and throw me away. No one is ever using you again." His hands framed my face. "And anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me. Permanently." The vow should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like absolution. Permission to stop fighting, to let someone else be strong for me. "My mother," I said suddenly. "Did she make it to the new facility okay?" "She's there now, settled in, comfortable. The doctors there are already working on an expanded donor search." Theo's expression softened. "And there's something else. We found a potential match. Preliminary testing looks promising." The words didn't register at first. Then they hit like a physical blow. "A match? For the transplant?" "It's not confirmed yet. But the donor registry flagged someone this morning. A 90% match. They're running more detailed tests now, but the transplant coordinator is optimistic." Tears streamed down my face before I could stop them. After months of bad news, of treatments failing, of watching my mother fade, finally, a ray of hope. "How did you—" I couldn't finish the question. I put her case in front of every specialist in the country, called in every favor I had, made it clear that finding a donor for Trudy Morgan was my personal priority. He wiped my tears with his thumbs. "I told you I'd fix this, Tessa. I keep my promises." I kissed him then, pouring everything into it. Gratitude and relief and something deeper, something I wasn't ready to name but could no longer deny. He responded instantly, his arms crushing me against him, his mouth claiming mine with desperate hunger. "Bedroom," he growled against my lips. "Now." "Yes." No hesitation, no doubt, just certainty that this was right, that he was right, that after months of circling each other, we were finally ready. He lifted me without breaking the kiss, carrying me through the penthouse to his bedroom. Our bedroom now, I realized. Somewhere along the way, this had become home. As he laid me on the bed, his eyes dark with desire and something fiercer, I reached for him. "Make me yours," I whispered, completely. His smile was pure possession. "You already are. I'm just making it official." What followed was a claiming in every sense of the word. Not gentle, not tentative, but fierce and absolute. A sealing of the bond that had been building between us since that first day in his office. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, I felt something settle deep in my chest. The fear that had been my constant companion for months, It was gone, replaced by certainty. I was Theodore Carrington's, and he was mine. The cage had become a sanctuary, and I had no intention of ever leaving. I woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the realization that everything had changed. Theo's arm was draped possessively across my waist, his breathing deep and even against my neck. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. That peace lasted exactly 10 minutes. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a call from Northwestern Memorial. My heart stopped as I answered, terrified that something had happened to Mom during the night. "Miss Morgan, this is Dr. Patel from the Transplant Center. I have excellent news. The potential donor we identified has been confirmed as a match. We'd like to schedule the transplant for next week if your mother is strong enough." The words didn't seem real. I'd spent so long preparing for the worst that hope felt foreign, dangerous. "Next week? That's so soon. The donor is available now, and your mother's recent tests show she's stable enough for surgery. I know this is sudden, but with her condition, we don't want to delay." Dr. Patel's voice was gentle. "This is the miracle you've been waiting for, Miss Morgan. Let's not waste it." After I hung up, I turned to find Theo awake, watching me with those intense gray eyes. "Good news? They found a match. A real match. The transplant is scheduled for next week." The words came out choked with emotion. "She's going to live, Theo. My mom is going to live." He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself break down completely. All the fear and exhaustion and desperate hope I'd been carrying for months poured out in shaking sobs against his chest. "I told you I'd fix it," he murmured into my hair. "I told you I'd save her." "Thank you." It wasn't enough. Could never be enough for what he'd given me. "Thank you for everything." His hands tightened on me. "You don't need to thank me for taking care of what's mine. That's what I do, Tessa. I protect the people I love." Love. The word hung between us, heavy with meaning. He'd said it so casually, like it was simply a fact rather than a declaration. "You love me?" I whispered. "Did you think this was just about wanting you? About possession?" He tilted my face up to meet his gaze. "I've been in love with you for months, Tessa. Since before I had any right to be. Since before you were ready to hear it. But yes, I love you. Completely. Irrevocably." The honesty in his voice, the vulnerability in his eyes, it shattered the last of my defenses. "I love you too," I admitted. "I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to let myself feel it." His kiss was achingly tender, a promise and a claim and a celebration all at once. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "After the transplant, after your mother is recovering, we need to talk about our future, about what you want this to be." His thumb traced my lower lip. "I know I've been overbearing, possessive, demanding, but I need you to understand. This isn't temporary for me. I want you in my life permanently, in every way." Before I could respond, his phone rang. The ringtone was one I'd learned to recognize. Marco, calling with urgent business. Theo's expression hardened as he answered. "What is it?" A pause as he listened, his jaw tightening with each passing second. "When? How many?" "No, keep her there. I'm on my way." He was out of bed before hanging up, already pulling on clothes with efficient precision. "Get dressed. We need to go to the hospital, now." Fear spiked through me. "What's wrong? Is it my mother?" "Your mother is fine, but there's been a situation." His voice was controlled, but I could see the fury simmering beneath. "Vincent had associates we didn't know about. They just tried to gain access to your mother's floor at Northwestern. Security stopped them, but But they know where she is. The realization made my blood run cold. Even after everything, they're still coming after her. After me. Not for long. Theo's voice promised violence. Get dressed. You're coming with me, and we're ending this today. 20 minutes later, we were at Northwestern, surrounded by what seemed like a small army of Theo's security. The transplant floor had been locked down, no one in or out without clearance, and in a private waiting room, 2 men sat zip-tied to chairs, bleeding and terrified. These are the ones who tried to access your mother's room, Marco explained. They had fake visitor passes and a detailed plan of the floor layout. Theo circled the men like a predator. Who sent you? Neither answered. Theo nodded to Marco, who stepped forward with a knife that caught the fluorescent light. The message was clear: talk or bleed. Dmitry Volkov, one of them finally gasped. He sent us. Said Vincent failed. Said the girl needed to pay for what she did. Dmitry wants Carrington to suffer. Ice filled my veins. I'd thought Vincent was the threat, but he'd just been a pawn in Dmitry's larger game. Where is Dmitry now? Theo's voice was deadly calm. His estate, but you can't get to him there. He's got 20 men, all armed, all loyal. I don't need to get to him. Theo pulled out his phone, making a call. This is Carrington. I need a meeting with the Volkov family. Today, their estate. Tell them it's regarding their recent attempt on my family's life. Tell them if they refuse, I go to the FBI with everything I have on their operation. He hung up and turned to me. You're staying here with Marco and 6 men. No one gets past them. No one. Understand? Where are you going? To end this. Permanently. He cupped my face, his touch gentle despite the violence in his eyes. Dmitry crossed a line when he sent men after your mother, when he threatened you. I've been patient, played by the rules of our world. But that ends today. Theo, please, if something happens to you, nothing will happen to me. I'm too angry to die. His smile was cold, and I have too much to live for now. You, your mother, our future. No one is taking that from me. Especially not Dmitry Volkov. He kissed me hard, possessive, then left with half his security team. I watched him go, terror and pride warring in my chest. The hours that followed were the longest of my life. I sat with my mother, who was blissfully unaware of the threat that had just been stopped, holding her hand while Marco and his team stood guard. The hospital had been turned into a fortress, every entrance monitored, every visitor screened. It was nearly 6 p.m. when Theo finally called. It's done, he said simply. Dmitry Volkov is no longer a threat. His organization is being absorbed by families more amenable to peace, and his associates have been given a very clear message about what happens when someone threatens what's mine. Relief washed through me. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I'm fine. Better than fine. I'm coming to get you. We have things to discuss. When he arrived 30 minutes later, he looked untouched. Not a hair out of place, his suit pristine. But there was something different in his eyes. A satisfaction. A finality. What happened? I asked as he pulled me into a private consultation room. I made Dmitry an offer he couldn't refuse. He backs off completely, surrenders his stake in several key operations, and publicly acknowledges that you and your mother are under my permanent protection. In exchange, he gets to keep breathing. Theo's smile was predatory. He accepted. Just like that? Not quite. I also showed him what I'm capable of when someone threatens my family. Made sure he understood that while I'd been playing nice before, that courtesy is now permanently revoked. His hand found my waist, pulling me close. No one will dare touch you again, Tessa. I've made you untouchable." The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like armor settling into place. Protection I'd never had. Safety I'd never known. "What does this mean for us?" I asked. "It means I'm done hiding what you are to me. Done pretending this is casual or temporary." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "It means I want to make this official." My heart stopped as he opened the box, revealing a ring, a simple but stunning diamond solitaire that caught the light and scattered it like stars. "I know this is fast. I know we've only been together a few days, technically. But I've loved you for months, Tessa. I've built my entire world around keeping you safe. And I don't want to wait anymore." He took my hand. "Marry me. Not because you owe me or because I've helped your mother, but because you love me. Because you want this life with me. Because you choose me freely." Tears streamed down my face. A week ago, I'd been drowning in debt and fear, watching my mother die, desperate and alone. Now I stood here with a man who'd moved heaven and earth to save us both, who'd made me his in every way that mattered, who was offering me a future I'd never dared imagine. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The smile that broke across his face was pure joy, the first time I'd seen him look truly happy. He slid the ring onto my finger, then kissed me with desperate intensity. "You're mine now," he murmured against my lips. "Officially. Completely." "Yours?" I agreed. "And you're mine. Always." 1 year later, the private garden at Theo's estate was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. White roses and peonies everywhere, strings of lights creating a canopy of stars, chairs filled with the few people who mattered most. I stood in the bridal suite, Mom beside me in her wheelchair, recovered from the transplant, cancer-free for 8 months now, growing stronger every day. She was crying as she helped adjust my veil. "You look beautiful, baby," she whispered. "So beautiful. And so happy." I was happy, deliriously, impossibly happy. The past year had been a whirlwind. Mom's successful transplant, moving permanently into Theo's penthouse, gradually integrating into his world while maintaining my own identity. He'd supported my decision to go back to school, to pursue the writing degree I'd abandoned years ago. I'd learned to navigate his business empire, become someone the families respected, proven I was more than just Theo's weakness. I was his strength, his partner, his equal. "It's time," Marco said from the doorway, looking uncomfortable in his formal tuxedo. "Boss is getting anxious." I laughed, kissing Mom's cheek before taking Marco's offered arm. He'd become like a brother over the past year, and it felt right that he'd walk me down the aisle. The ceremony was small, just family and close associates. But when I stepped out into the garden and saw Theo waiting at the altar, the rest of the world disappeared. He looked devastating in his tuxedo, his dark hair styled back, his gray eyes fixed on me with such intensity that I felt it like a physical touch. As I walked toward him, his expression shifted, from controlled to vulnerable to absolutely certain. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered when I reached him. "You're not so bad yourself," I whispered back, making him smile. The ceremony was traditional, the vows we'd written ourselves. When it came time for Theo's vows, his voice was steady, but emotional. "Tessa, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten what it meant to truly care about someone. You challenged me, frustrated me, made me want to be better than I was. You saw the darkness in me and didn't run. Instead, you stood your ground and demanded I see you as an equal. I promised to love you, protect you, cherish you for all the days of my life. I promise that you will always be my first priority, my greatest treasure. I promise that no one will ever hurt you while I draw breath. You are mine, and I am yours. Forever. My own vows were simpler but no less heartfelt. Theo, you saved me when I was drowning. You gave me hope when I had none. You loved me when I couldn't love myself. I promise to stand beside you, to be your partner in all things, to trust in your protection while maintaining my own strength. I promise to love you fiercely, completely, without reservation. You claimed me as yours, and I accept that claim, because you're mine too, forever. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, Theo kissed me like we were the only two people in the world, like he was sealing a promise written in blood and fire and unwavering devotion. Mrs. Carrington, he murmured against my lips. Finally. The reception was intimate, perfect. But it was later, when we were finally alone in the master suite that had become truly ours, that Theo pulled me close. Do you have any regrets? He asked quietly. About how we started? About everything that happened? I thought about it, the fear, the danger, the impossible choices. Then I thought about where it had led us, to this moment, this love, this future. No regrets, I said firmly. Every terrifying moment led me here, led me to you. Good. His hands framed my face with that familiar possessive gentleness. Because I'm never letting you go, Tessa Carrington. You're stuck with me now. Promise? I smiled. Promise. He kissed me softly. You and me, against the world, forever. And as he carried me to our bed, claiming me once more as his wife, his partner, his everything, I knew that forever with Theodore Carrington was exactly where I belonged. The cage had become a sanctuary. The captor had become my salvation, and the man I'd feared had become the love of my life. This was my happily ever after, hard-won, fierce, and absolutely perfect.